I forgot to mention to you in the announcements that today has been dubbed by our staff Peace Sunday because we noticed, number 2? Oh, we have a... Okay, from the back, Alex is going like this, Peace Sunday, and I'm thinking he's telling me something about the microphones or the live stream. Today is Peace Sunday because the scriptures are a lot about peace, and that got my wheels turning. I remember way back in the day, I sang a concert for peace, and I was really proud of it because it was at Yale University, and I had a solo. And honestly, I was really glad to make a statement about the need for world peace. Afterward, we gathered outside to chat with friends and acquaintances, and among the praise for the concert was this comment: "I am so done talking about peace without doing anything about it." Kind of brought me up short. I was so excited, and here was this strong comment. But the person who said it worked in community mediation. These are people that he was working with who had been ordered by the courts because of some family dispute or community problem to work together for mediation and to come to resolution, some sort of peace. And this guy worked day in, day out with people who weren't really fully committed to that process. I'm sure it was hard work, and I've thought about that comment a lot since that day because there was a point of truth to it. It is easier to sing and talk about peace than it is to cultivate it in yourself or to share it with other people. Today in our gospel lesson, Jesus promises, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you." Jesus says these words to his disciples on the last night of his life. It's part of an extended farewell speech that Jesus gives that lasts 5 chapters in the Gospel of John. Peace is one of Jesus' parting gifts to his disciples because they are confused and they are afraid. But what is this peace that Jesus offers? There are many forms of peace. Governments can enforce peace through the police and the military. Teachers can require peace with children and having them use their words, not their fists. Employment can be contingent upon following a code of ethics. And communities can sanction behaviors that threaten social cohesion. All of these forms of peace are mandated from the outside. These kinds of peacekeeping does restrain violence, and it does set up ways for people to live together in relative harmony. That's all good. But it's not what Jesus is talking about here in the Gospel of John. He says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives." Jesus' peace is different than worldly peace that comes from the outside. It's a peace that abides within us. It's not something that changes people from the outside, but rather from the outside in. Peace is an attribute of the Holy Spirit, the advocate, as the Gospel of John says, the helper, the comforter. That Holy Spirit giving peace, comfort, and help is not contingent upon what is going on outside, but is fully contingent on the receptivity on the inside. Jesus' gift of peace is one that we open our hearts to. It is also a gift we can cultivate. This week in our passage, I've been struck by the use of the word home. I don't know if you noticed it. Jesus says, "Those who love me will keep my word, and the Father will love them, and we will come to them and make a home within them." God the Father and Jesus the Son have this kind of mutual indwelling kind of relationship, this kind of connection in which they are a part of one another. And that is the kind of connection that God is promising with us. It is like a home inside of us where we are protected, where we are safe, where all our needs are met, a place of peace. When we connect to God through prayer, when we dwell in the abiding presence of Christ, when the Holy Spirit reminds us of what Jesus has taught, we are in that home space in our hearts, cultivating that spirit of peace. And we grow in that ability to just let the things outside settle and to know how to proceed. I think you know what I'm talking about. So many situations in life rouse our suspicions and our fears and our anger. What can we do to get to that still place inside that awaits each one of us? Jesus' gift of peace. It's about taking time to nurture that relationship with God, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit. Because as we nourish that relationship, as we experience that place of home, then we can take the risk to go to those places where we are not so peaceful. Jesus' disciples received his peace and were meant to share it. In fact, when Jesus dies and comes back to his disciples for the first time, do you know what his first words to them were? Peace be with you. His very first words. Peace. And then he breathed on them the Holy Spirit and commissioned them to forgive sins. First, the gift of peace, and then the command to share it. These things are linked together, united with Jesus, because they are part of the same gift. And so it is not enough to cultivate your little private peace. It is about getting to that place where you can make the peace. I spent some time this week reading about the Dayton Peace Accords. The Dayton Peace Accords were signed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base 30 years ago, and they ended the Bosnian War that killed 100,000 people, many of whom were civilians. It was a terrible and brutal war. The Air Force Base was chosen for a couple of reasons. One is that back in the day, it was a pretty isolated place. And so the three parties that were involved in the diplomatic discussions had to pay attention to each other. They could not be distracted by other things. And number two, the visiting officers' quarters where each delegation was housed were essentially identical. And that meant everyone had a sign that they would be treated equally and that they would have a fair hearing. Those things were essential for building the kind of atmosphere in which people could set aside their hostilities for a few moments and think about solving the problem rather than blaming someone else and retaliating. That focus on fairness, listening, and sticking with the peace process was critical in creating agreement and ending the war. As I think about these peace accords, which were historic, signed here, supported perhaps by some of you who work at the Air Force Base, as I think about how their work applies to ours, I think about that dedication of time and commitment to peacemaking, to that dedication to finding a quiet space, that focus, and the lowering of hostilities. We're all called to make whatever peace we can in our lives, and we all have places of conflict. Can we create the conditions for peace? It all starts here. Finding that place of safety and trust that you are okay. God is watching out for you. And so you can take that risk to put aside hostilities, even for a short while, and perhaps get a little curious. What is it that motivates the other person or party? What is going on for them that makes this such a volatile situation? What hurts within yourself and others need to be healed? How can you create a ceasefire to begin that healing for yourself and for others? It doesn't necessarily mean you'll rush in to be buddies, but it does mean that you might stop that cycle of angry texting immediately, or that you might spend more time in prayer, because you better believe it, opportunities arise. And if you show up to do your work in peacemaking, to heal with God, to look at the situation with Jesus' love and compassion, to allow the Holy Spirit to speak the truth to your ears, when that situation arises, you will be ready. You will be ready to cultivate one more step of peace. The Dayton Peace Accords were a temporary agreement that's still in place today. They'd hoped for a permanent solution, and it didn't come, at least not yet. NATO is meeting in their parliamentary assembly in downtown Dayton as we speak, and there are many matters of global and regional importance before them. Peacemaking matters. This is Memorial Day weekend, when we remember our war dead and the sacrifice that they made to keep the peace for us. And in our personal lives, our hearts cry out for peace. Jesus gives the gift of peace. Already, it's here in our hearts, in that abiding relationship with Jesus, with God the Father, the Holy Spirit, who is as close as our breath. When we are baptized, we say we will struggle for justice and peace in all the earth, and it is such a huge promise. And yet, we are called to live it out every single day in small and great ways, in our personal lives, in our work lives, in our communities. Every Sunday, we pass the peace. We share the peace of Christ. And we are going to do so today, because did you notice we haven't done it yet? We moved it just for this reason, Pastor Corey and I. Because we wanted all of us to be encouraged and reminded that peace is not something that we have to create. It is God's gift to us, Jesus' gift to us. And we can cultivate it and nurture it and share it. So I invite you to share the gift of Christ's peace with intentionality, with prayer, and as a sign of encouragement to one another. We are in this together. Are you ready? And stand on up. The peace of Christ be with you always. Share that word of peace.